Welcome back, eSIM Studios. So, going to get into a little tech business, which going to talk about tariffs and what that means for your technology, possibly your next cell phone. Every now and then, politics and technology will hit each other head on, and the new tariffs hit every industry. Who's going to get hit really, really hard? Apple. Their team, what do? Do we continue producing iPhones in China and get taxed at a high 34% rate, which is very high? Or do we open a manufacturing plant in the United States and have them produced here? We'll get into that, which the pros and cons to that. What do we do, right? Because they got to make a decision. They got to make a decision quick, because here's the deal. The iPhone 17 series is not that far away. Here's the problem. The iPhone 17 series are going to be expensive because they cannot make a change. They cannot produce the iPhone 16 just like that, drop of a dime, somewhere else, right? The iPhone 17 is going to be produced in China, which means that your iPhone 17 price is going to go much, much higher. Almost. The iPhone 17 Pro Max will probably cost up to $2,300, and that is going to just put a huge dent in their sales. Now, I know most people in America buy their phones on a 2 to 3 year plan, right, through the carrier. But if you're already paying $1,600 for a iPhone 16 Pro Max over 2 or 3 years, I don't know, that comes out to like $50 a month. Well, you might have customers start thinking twice when instead of $50 a month, it's $80 a month, right? I mean, that's a big difference. It's not like a $2 to $3 difference where you're like, screw it, whatever. At least that's what I say. But when you're talking about a $30 difference per month, it's like, well, that could be my whole Netflix bill right there, right? So it's a big issue. So here's what Apple's running into. Here's what they're running into. Now, you see a lot of companies like, who did I see today? Nike. They are not going to open up a manufacturing plant in the United States because, and this ties in with Apple, so I'm not going off the shoes all of a sudden, right? Because this is what Apple's thinking. Do we open a manufacturing plant in the United States? If they do that, the labor is going to go mad high, because depending on what state you open up your manufacturing plant, minimum wage, right? And they're definitely not going to pay, well, they might. Minimum wage, which is, I think, $7.15, or here in Texas, it's like $7.25, right? Which is considerably higher, 2, 3, 4, even, 10 times higher than it could be outside of the United States. So that would still raise costs to the end consumer, because they need to pay off that difference for paying for labor. So that's why Nike said, no, we're not opening a plant in the United States. And if you did open up a manufacturing plant in the United States, let's say in 3.5 years, when Trump is out of office, and let's say any other president comes in, more than likely, now if it's a Republican, maybe let's say it's J.D. Vance, he might keep those tariffs there. But if it's a Democrat, they're going to cut those tariffs, right? They're going to take those tariffs off, and it'll go back to normal, or how it was a week ago, right? So why would a company like Apple and or Nike, or even Land Rover, Jaguar said, we're just going to halt all U.S. sales? If Nike and or Apple opened up a manufacturing plant in the U.S., and then in 3.5 years, if a Democrat gets elected and they cut those tariffs, well, things go back to normal. Apple, Nike, other companies that open manufacturing plants in the U.S. are going to say, well, why the hell are we operating in the U.S. if we move back to China or India or Brazil? We could be saving X amount of dollars per month. This is millions and billions in the long run. So that's why I don't think that you're going to see an Apple open up a manufacturing plant in the United States, because they're already in negotiations with Brazil and India. Now, let me get you a quick overview of the labor costs, because that's what it comes down. It's labor costs and it's tariff costs. It's import tax costs, right? Those two main factors go into play when you are a corporation manufacturing a product and you have to have it shipped to each country, mainly U.S. is what we're talking about here, and sell it, right? You got import tax and you have to pay for labor. Well, so China right now, 34% tax rate, 34% tariff on China. Apple, as we speak, are in negotiations with Brazil and India. Now, why these two countries? Well, Apple already manufacture the iPhone 16 base model in Brazil. And they're trying to figure out, now, they certainly cannot crank up the volume and then produce all the iPhone 17, 17 Air, 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max from that one manufacturing plant in Brazil. It can't handle all those iPhones. We're talking millions upon millions of iPhones, right? But Brazil has, okay, so get this. I'm going to go through tariff rates and I'm going to go give you labor rates. So China has a tariff of 34%. And I'm going to give you their minimum wage, and it's going to be in US dollars. Now, the labor rate there, they get paid once a month, $370 US dollars per month. Now, if they work a 40-hour work week, which comes out to 160 hours per month, that comes out, and then you divide that $370 that they get per month divided by a normal 40-hour work week, that comes out to $2.31 per hour. That's China. All right. Now, Brazil has a tax rate and or tariff rate and or import tax rate of 26%. Right? So China's 34%, Brazil is 26%, and they get paid labor-wise, they get paid $259 per month. Now, after you do the math, that comes out to $1.61 per hour. So they could save an enormous amount of money if they invest. Now, that manufacturing plant in Brazil is already a Foxconn manufacturing plant. That's Foxconn in China is the manufacturing company that Apple partners with in China to produce. Well, they partnered with Foxconn in Brazil. Now, to get that up and running in Brazil, they would have to build more manufacturing plants, right? I mentioned they do manufacture the iPhone 16 already in Brazil, the base model, but it's going to take, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year to get, maybe 1-2 more manufacturing plants down there. So you're looking at a decent money investment, but again, how long are these tariffs going to last? Can they just remain in China? Can they weather the storm the next few years? Apple, that's up to them. Now, get this. Their last-minute negotiations, they just came into play, is the country of India. Not only does India have one of the lowest tariff rates of any country in the world, get this. They also have one of the lowest minimum wages of any country in the world. One of, not the, but one of, right? So you're not going to believe how much they make per hour. So in India, $63 US dollars per month. Now that's US dollars, which comes out to 39 cents per hour. It's even lower than China. So that's why Google started manufacturing there. That's why nothing manufactures there. You see why. So that's even lower than China, right? We all kind of think, oh, cheap labor, China, right? It's the first thing that comes up. Well, India has got them beat. So that's why they see these numbers and they're like, holy crap, that is insanely low. Now, since Foxconn is already operating there in India, I'm sure they're in negotiations with India, the country, and Foxconn, and maybe in that same general area. I don't know where Google has their manufacturing plants. I don't know where Nothing has theirs, but I don't know. They could be separate. They could be close to each other, but whatever. again, Apple has a team where they're on the phone, they're scouting areas. Okay, they're doing the math. How much are we going to produce all of our products there? Or is it just going to be the iPhones? Are we going to do AirTags? What about iPads? It's one of those things where they have a list of, okay, if we just produce iPhones here, and it's going to cost us this much to build a manufacturing plant, and this much in labor, and blah, 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 blah. And here's this. If we just do the iPhones, this is what it's going to cost us. If we just do iPhones and iPads, this is how much if we do everything, this is how much it's going to cost us. So they're getting their money's worth today, Apple, as far as that critical emergency team or whatever, the analytics team. They're crunching numbers like 24/7 right now. They're in overdrive, because the sooner you make a decision, the sooner you can save your company millions of dollars, right? It'll be interesting to see where they go. Now, obviously, you want to take the cheapest option possible, but you have to factor in, maybe India says, okay, well, if you build here, we want a 10-year contract, meaning we'll let you build some manufacturing plants here, but we want you to use our country for the next 10 years. Maybe, and see, it helps Apple have a second negotiating partner, because Apple can go to Brazil and be like, well, India is going to require a 10-year contract, but Brazil wants us to sign a 15-year manufacturing contract, right? So it helps in negotiations to have technically three parties, but you're going back and forth. It's just like selling a car. It's just like anything else, right? So I think that's why they reached out to India today, to try and get a second partner in there, to try to get the cost down. Because trust me, believe me, they want Apple bad. India and Brazil. Now, they're going to have to probably pay a fee to get out of their contract from China, right? I'm sure they have a 10, 15, 20-year deal with China. And that's what you have to weigh. So what if a Democrat comes in, cuts the tariffs, then everything goes back to normal? But what if we invest $340 million in new facilities over here, and then in 3 years they just cut the tariffs, then we go back to normal? How much money are we going to save? How much money, are we in the red from making this move? You see the two separate sides of these decisions. Nike is not even going to build a new manufacturing plant. They're going to take hits on tariffs, shipping their products and selling products to us U.S. consumers. And they're going to roll the dice. In 3 to 4 years, let's hope there's whatever next sitting president comes in. Let's hope they cut those tariffs and operate as usual, right? Land Rover, Jaguar, they're not even going to sell their products. And I think there was another car company, I can't remember who it was. Oh no, it's Nintendo. We're not even going to sell the product in the U.S., right? Screw y'all. So you see, these companies that have Apple's lost 300 million or 300 billion? It's got to be, they've lost a ton of money in the last 2 days. Every product you sell, these companies are operating on razor thin profit margins. Literally, every penny that comes off or comes out of a sale adds up to millions of dollars. So that's why even a 1% tariff increase or a 1% import tax, right, is a huge deal, let alone a freaking 20% increase. I mean, that just blows up your whole project, right? So not just Apple, all these companies are in panic mode. What do we do? Basically, two options. Three. You can open a manufacturing plant in the U.S. and start operating, which I don't think many companies are going to do that. I think they're going to try to scoot around these tariffs. The minimum wage here, considerably higher than in any other country, or at least the countries we're talking about, right? Building costs are just astronomically high, and they can build something for a fraction of the price. Foxconn and Apple can build something for a fraction of the price in India and Brazil compared to here in the U.S. It's all money. It's all bottom line. It's not, oh, Apple's not being American because they don't want to open a manufacturing plant here. No, everything comes down to money. And you say everything? Think of any scenario, well, minus like a love situation. Oh, I love you, husband-wife thing or boyfriend-girlfriend thing or child thing. That's like a love. But anything outside of that comes down to money. Everything. So it's not that being American is trying to get the best freaking deal you can. Being American is trying to maximize your profit to the greatest amount you can on your product. That's being American. So I think these companies are going to try to scoot around these tariffs or just pay as low as they can and see where it goes in 3 years, right? Or 3.5 years. He could even cut the tariffs or modify it before then. So that's why I think these companies are very, very hesitant to invest billions of dollars in new manufacturing plants here, because at any moment Trump could wake up in the middle of the night and cut everything in half, right? I know he said he's not, because I'm sure Trump has heard from his Secretary of Commerce. I'm sure these all come into play and they bring up scenarios in the White House. So that's why we're not changing. We're sticking to it, because he doesn't want Nike, he doesn't want Apple or Google to think he might change it in the future, because then they're like, well, why even invest in a manufacturing plant if he's just going to change it, right? So, sorry, I kind of talked myself silly, but everything comes down to bottom line. And I just think that these companies are going to try to scoot around it, or they're just, now Apple cannot say, we're just not going to sell our iPhone, right? That's not going to happen. You'll still have an iPhone. You'll still have an iPhone if you want to buy one. It's just, as I mentioned, this 17 series, they start manufacturing about 4 months before launch, right? Because you got to have a stockpile of iPhones ready. So when you launch and people pay for that pre-order, they start going out, right? Let's see, what month are we in? We're in April, May, June, July, August, September. So we're 5 months out. It's too late to change plans. These iPhone 17s are going to be produced wherever they're produced. I'm sure the 17 will be produced in Brazil, and then the 17 Air, 17 Pro, and 17 Pro Max are going to be produced and manufactured in China. And that's where you're going to see the huge price increase this year for the iPhone 17 series. Big time. You're not going to have a $1,000 price point is right around where most Americans expect to pay for a premium flagship device. Well, now it's going to be $1,200. Now it's going to be $1,300. Again, the 17 Pro Max 1 terabyte model, $2,300. It's on the next series, right, that you're going to see the prices come back down a little bit. So should be interesting. I know that. But again, if you're a first-time viewer, welcome to the channel. We don't normally talk politics, and we do talk some business, just not a lot of politics, but this is a special occasion, right? So let me know what would you do. Let's do that. If you're Apple, I know we got a lot of Android people here, but okay, if you hate Apple that much, kind of like I do, if you're Google, what do you do? If you're a manufacturer, what do? You got 2 options. Do you set up 3 options? Do you set up shop and put a manufacturing plant in the U.S. and start operating and manufacturing in the U.S.? First option. Or do you kind of do what I think Apple's going to do, what it looks like they're going to do, and move out of China because they have the highest, or one of the highest, tariff rates, and start operating in Brazil, start operating in India? Or do you just stay put in China and have really high prices here in America, right? Let me know what you would do. Thank you for your time. Really interesting time. But I really appreciate it. And please stick around. Subscribe to the channel. We got I got a lot of stuff on the way. So case reviews. Just subscribe, and I guarantee you have cool tech videos to watch. So hit me up. My email is in the video description. All my contact information is there down below. And got some cool stuff on the way. Peace.